You wake up every morning with the same thought. Is this all there is? You scroll through your phone, seeing everyone else living their dream life while you're stuck in the same routine. Another day of pretending you're okay. Another day of watching time slip away. But here's what nobody tells you. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't about talent, luck, or timing. It's about something Jack Ma discovered when he was rejected from over 30 jobs, including KFC, where 24 people applied and 23 got hired. He was the only one they turned away. Today, he's built an empire that changed how the world does business. And before you think this is another success story you can't relate to, understand this. Jack Ma failed his university entrance exam twice. He applied to Harvard 10 times and got rejected every single time. The difference between him and everyone else who gave up isn't what you think. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will either wake you up or make you realize you've been asleep your entire life. The weight of ordinary dreams. Let me paint you a picture you know too well. You're sitting at your desk, or maybe you're lying in bed at 2 in the morning, and there's this heavy feeling in your chest. It's not pain exactly, it's something worse. It's the feeling that you're capable of so much more, but somehow life has you trapped in a cycle you never consciously chose. You watch the clock, you count the hours until the weekend. You tell yourself next month will be different, next year will be your year, but deep down, you know that's a lie you've been telling yourself for years. Jack Ma knows this feeling intimately. Before Alibaba, before the billions, before the global recognition, he was a man who couldn't get hired anywhere. His father was a traditional musician who earned just a few dollars a month. Jack grew up poor in communist China, in a tiny apartment where opportunity seemed like a foreign concept. When other kids were being groomed for success, Jack was being told he wasn't good enough, smart enough, connected enough. The world had already decided his fate, except he hadn't. Rule 1, reject the labels the world gives you. Here's the first truth Jack Ma lives by, and it's going to sting. You are not who people say you are. You are not your failures. You are not your current circumstances. You are not the rejection letters. You are not the disappointed looks from your parents. You are not the comparison to your more successful friends. But you have accepted these labels as truth, haven't you? Somewhere along the way, you let other people's limited vision of you become your own limited vision of yourself. Jack Ma failed his primary school exam twice. He failed his middle school exam 3 times. When he finally got into a poor university, he applied for 30 different jobs after graduation and got rejected from every single one. He even applied to be a police officer with 4 other people. The other 4 got accepted. Jack was told he wasn't qualified. Think about that for a moment. Not qualified to be a police officer. The world looked at him and saw nothing special, no potential, no future, just another face in the crowd destined for mediocrity. But here's what Jack understood that most people never will. The labels other people put on you are just reflections of their own limited thinking. When Harvard rejected him 10 times, it wasn't because he lacked potential. It was because they couldn't see past their own narrow definition of what success looks like. When those companies refused to hire him, it wasn't because he had nothing to offer. It was because they were measuring him against standards that had nothing to do with his actual capabilities. You're doing the same thing to yourself right now. You're carrying around rejections from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like they're eternal truths. That person who said you weren't smart enough, that opportunity you didn't get, that dream you gave up on because someone convinced you it was unrealistic. You've been wearing these rejections like chains, and the cruelest part is that you're the one who keeps them locked. Jack Ma says something profound about this. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. Notice he doesn't say success is guaranteed. He says you still have a chance. Because the moment you accept someone else's label, the moment you believe their assessment of your worth, that's when the chance dies. Not when you fail, not when you get rejected, but when you agree with the rejection. Look at your life right now. What labels are you wearing that aren't yours? What story have you been telling yourself about what you can't do, can't be, can't achieve? I want you to feel the weight of this question because most people go their entire lives never asking it. They accept the first, second, third rejection as proof that the world is right and their dreams are wrong. They shrink themselves to fit into boxes other people built. Rule 2, your struggles are your qualifications. This is where it gets uncomfortable. You think your struggles, Your failures, your painful past are things you need to overcome to be successful. Jack Ma teaches the opposite. Your struggles are not obstacles to your success. They are the foundation of it. Every rejection, every failure, every moment you wanted to give up but didn't has been building the exact skills, resilience, and perspective you need for what's coming. When Jack Ma was teaching English for $12 a month, barely surviving, learning about the internet for the first time at age 33, do you think he saw that as his qualification to build a tech empire? No. He saw himself as behind, too old, too inexperienced. He compared himself to people who had been in tech for years and thought he had no chance. But his struggles were teaching him something far more valuable than technical knowledge. They were teaching him how to survive when everyone says you can't, how to believe when nothing in your reality supports that belief, how to build something from nothing because you've done it your entire life. You've been looking at your struggles as evidence that you're not ready. Jack Ma would tell you they're evidence that you're the only one who is ready. That person who had everything handed to them, who never faced real rejection, who never had to build from zero, they'll crumble the moment things get hard. But you've been training in the darkness. You know how to fall and get back up. You know how to keep going when there's no cheering section, no validation, no proof that it's working. Think about what you've survived. The disappointments, the betrayals, the moments you thought would break you but didn't. You're still here. You're still fighting. That's not weakness. That's not proof you're not good enough. That's your resume. Those are your qualifications for the next level. Jack Ma often talks about how his early rejections prepared him for running Alibaba. When investors said no, when competitors doubted him, when obstacles seemed impossible, he had already lived through worse with less. He had already proven to himself that he could survive and thrive in conditions that would destroy most people. Your current struggle isn't random. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Rule 3. Think bigger than your current capacity. Here's where most people lose the game before it even starts. They set goals based on what they currently see as possible. They look at their current skills, their current resources, their current network, and they build dreams that fit inside those limitations. Jack Ma teaches something radical. Your biggest dreams should terrify you because if they don't, they're not big enough. When Jack Ma started talking about building a Chinese company that would compete with American tech giants, people laughed at him. When he said he wanted to make it easy for small businesses anywhere in the world to sell to anyone anywhere else, people called him delusional. He had no money, no technical background, no connections in Silicon Valley, no experience running a tech company. By every logical measure, he should have set smaller, more realistic goals. But Jack understood something crucial about human potential. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems and beliefs. If you set small goals that feel safe and achievable, you'll create small systems and hold small beliefs about what's possible. You'll put in small effort because that's all the goal requires. But when you set goals that are borderline impossible, something shifts. You're forced to think differently, to try strategies you wouldn't have considered, to become someone you've never been before because your current self isn't capable of achieving what you've set out to do. Look at your current goals honestly. Are they actually ambitious, or are they just dressed up versions of what you're already doing? Are they big enough to require you to completely transform, or are they comfortable enough that you could achieve them while staying essentially the same person? Jack Ma says, if you want to be successful, learn from the people who have been successful. If you want to be a failure, learn from everybody. Most people are learning from everybody, taking advice from people who never did what they want to do, setting goals that keep them safe and small. Your life right now is a direct reflection of the size of your thinking. That job you hate but won't leave because it's secure. That relationship you stay in even though it's draining your soul because being alone feels scary. That dream you keep putting off until you have more money, more time, more certainty. All of these are symptoms of thinking that's too small. You're optimizing for comfort instead of growth, for safety instead of potential, for fitting in instead of standing out. Jack Ma didn't have the luxury of safe thinking. He had nothing to lose, which became his greatest advantage. When you have nothing, big thinking costs the same as small thinking. When you're already at the bottom, the risk of aiming high is just your ego. So here's the question that should haunt you. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you build if you had unlimited resources? What would you become if fear wasn't a factor? Now ask yourself why you're not doing that. Because the real answer isn't lack of resources. It's lack of courage to think beyond what feels safe. Rule 4, get comfortable with being misunderstood. Nobody talks about this part of success, but Jack Ma has lived it viscerally. The higher you climb, the more people will misunderstand you. The bigger your vision, the more people will call you crazy. The more you break from conventional paths, the more you'll be criticized, doubted, and dismissed. And you have to be okay with that. Not just okay, you have to expect it, welcome it even. Because if everyone understands and supports your vision immediately, it means your vision isn't revolutionary. It's just a slight variation of what already exists. When Jack Ma was building Alibaba in his apartment with 17 friends, using money scraped together from anyone who would invest, the entire business world thought he was wasting his time. China didn't have the internet infrastructure. Chinese consumers weren't ready for e-commerce. Foreign companies would crush any local competitor. Every expert, every analyst, every experienced business person had perfectly logical reasons why Jack's vision would fail. And they weren't wrong based on what existed. They were only wrong because they couldn't see what Jack could see about what was coming. This is your struggle too, isn't it? You have a vision for your life, for what you could build, for who you could become. But the people around you don't see it. Your family questions your choices. Your friends think you're going through a phase. Your colleagues think you're being unrealistic. And their doubt gets inside your head. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if they're right and you're the delusional one. Jack Ma addresses this directly. When you are 20 to 30 years old, you should follow a good boss and join a good company to learn how to do things properly. When you are 30 to 40 years old, if you want to do something yourself, just do it. When you are 40 to 50 years old, my suggestion is you should do things you are good at. When you are 50 to 60 years old, spend time training and developing young people. When you are over 60 years old, you better stay with your grandchildren. The wisdom here isn't about age. It's about timing and self-awareness. But more importantly, it's about understanding that at every stage, people will have opinions about what you should be doing. They'll project their fears, their limitations, their failed dreams onto you. They'll give you advice based on their experience, which has nothing to do with your potential. And if you listen to all of them, if you try to make everyone understand and approve, you'll never do anything worth remembering. Being misunderstood is the price of being exceptional. Think about every person who changed the world, who built something revolutionary, who lived a life that inspired millions. At some point, they had to choose between being understood and being great. They couldn't have both, because greatness requires doing things differently, and doing things differently makes people uncomfortable. It challenges their beliefs about what's possible. It makes them question their own choices. And humans would rather call you crazy than confront their own complacency. So the question isn't how to make people understand. The question is, are you willing to be misunderstood? Are you willing to be doubted? Can you keep going when everyone is telling you to quit? Because that's where Jack Ma lived for years, in the space between his vision and everyone else's skepticism. And he stayed there, working, building, believing, until reality caught up with his vision. Rule 5, serve something bigger than yourself. This is the rule that separates people who achieve success from people who achieve significance. Jack Ma could have built a company that made him rich. That would have been impressive enough given where he started. But he built something bigger. He built a platform that empowered millions of small business owners. He created opportunities for people who, like him, were told they weren't good enough, didn't have the right connections, couldn't compete with the big players. Jack Ma says, never give up. Today is hard. Tomorrow will be worse, but the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. This isn't just motivational fluff. This is the mindset of someone who understands that the struggle isn't about you. When you're serving something bigger than yourself, when you're building something that will help people you'll never meet, the hard days and the worst days become bearable, because it's not about your comfort anymore. It's about the mission. Look at your current motivation. What's driving you? Is it just to make more money, to prove people wrong, to escape your current situation? Those motivations will get you started, but they won't sustain you. They're too small, too self-focused. They'll carry you through the first obstacle, maybe the second, But when you hit the wall that actually requires everything you have, when you face the moment where giving up seems more logical than continuing, those motivations will evaporate. You need a reason bigger than yourself. Not because it sounds noble, but because it's the only thing powerful enough to override your brain's natural tendency to seek comfort and avoid pain. When the path gets brutal, and it will, you need to be driven by something that matters more than how you feel in that moment. Jack Ma wasn't just building a business. He was trying to prove that someone from his background could create something that mattered. He was showing millions of people like him that the system didn't define their ceiling. What's your bigger purpose? What would you fight for even if you never got credit? What change do you want to see in the world that you're willing to sacrifice for? I'm not talking about vague answers like helping people or making a difference. I'm talking about specific, visceral, personal missions that connect to your deepest values. Because that's what you'll need when everything falls apart. When your plan fails. When people betray you. When the market shifts. When nothing is working. Your mission has to be so clear, so important, that giving up feels like betraying yourself. Here's what all 5 rules build to. And this is the part you need to hear with full attention. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not too old, too young, too inexperienced, too damaged. You are exactly where you need to be to become who you're meant to be. Every single thing you've been through, every rejection, every failure, every moment of doubt has been preparing you for what's coming next. But only if you make a decision right now to stop living in the past and start living in possibility. Jack Ma didn't become Jack Ma by being perfect. He became Jack Ma by being persistent when everything suggested persistence was stupid. He became Jack Ma by thinking bigger when everyone told him to think smaller. He became Jack Ma by serving a mission that mattered more than his ego. And most importantly, he became Jack Ma by refusing to let the world tell him who he was. You have the same 24 hours he had. You have access to the same internet, the same tools, the same information. What you don't have is his mindset. Yet. Because mindset isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's a choice you make every single morning when you wake up. Are you going to live today based on who you were yesterday or based on who you're becoming tomorrow? The life you want exists. The person you want to be is real. The impact you want to make is possible, but not with your current thinking, not with your current habits, not with your current belief system. Something has to die for something new to be born. Your old identity, your old excuses, your old story about why things can't work for you, all of that has to be released. Not gradually, not eventually. Now, Jack Ma was once asked what he would tell his younger self. He said he wouldn't tell him anything because the struggles made him who he became. But he did say this: in life, you need to do 3 things. Choose the right people to be with, do the right thing, and invest in the right place. This seems simple until you realize most people get all 3 wrong. They surround themselves with people who reinforce their limitations. They do things that feel safe instead of right. They invest their time, energy, and resources in dead ends because they're too afraid to bet on themselves. So here we are at the end, but really this is your beginning. Everything I've shared, everything Jack Ma has taught through his life and words comes down to one final truth. You already have everything you need to start, not to finish, not to have it all figured out, but to start. To take the first step toward the life you actually want instead of the life you've settled for. Jack Ma started with nothing and built everything, not because he was special, but because he refused to stay where the world tried to keep him. He rejected the labels. He used his struggles as fuel. He thought bigger than his circumstances allowed. He got comfortable being misunderstood, and he served something bigger than his own success. These aren't just rules. They're a blueprint for transformation. Your move now is simple but not easy. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect version of yourself. Start where you are with what you have. Make the decision that you're done being small, done playing it safe, done living a life that looks good to everyone else but feels empty to you. Jack Ma has one final piece of wisdom that should echo in your mind long after you finish reading this. You need the right people with you, not the best people. This is revolutionary. You don't need everything to be perfect. You need to start moving with whoever is willing to move with you. You don't need all the answers. You need to begin taking action and learning as you go. You don't need to be ready. You need to be willing. Your ultimate potential isn't something you discover. It's something you create through the choices you make every single day. Through the courage to try when failure is likely. Through the persistence to continue when quitting would be easier. Through the vision to see what doesn't exist yet and build it anyway. This is your life, your one shot, your chance to stop surviving and start thriving. The question isn't whether you can do it. The question is whether you will. Because everything you need is already inside you. It's been there all along, waiting for you to stop looking for permission and start taking action. Today is the day you stop preparing to live and start actually living. Today is the day you become the person you've been pretending you're not ready to be. Today is the day your ultimate potential stops being a dream and starts becoming your reality. Now go build something that matters. The world is waiting for what only you can create.